What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to comment. I want to play and then comment on some statements that John Calipari made on the Running Back podcast. He was talking to Boogie Cousins. What's the young lady named Michelle Beadle and Lou Williams, right? And John Calipari, I always thought John Calipari was a good coach. He wasn't so much of a X's and O's kind of coach to me. He was more so of a motivator, like a smooth talker and everything. And so that, to me was, like what I think about John Calipari. But I do think he was a good coach. Everybody not, that like everybody not going to be an X's and O's. That's not going to be your strengths, right? And I thought, like I said, his strengths. I remember him coaching at UMass, Kentucky. What else he coached at? He coached at Memphis, and I think now I don't know what school he at now, but so he been all over the place, and I think he did coach in the NBA at one time. I think he coached at Boston. I think he did. I'm not sure, but anyway, I thought he was a good coach. And I thought this was an interesting interview, right? And so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to play the exchange between him and Boogie, because Boogie Cousins played for him, and I'm going to react to, some of the statements that was made on here. And with that being said, here we go.
I honestly could have just sat there and listened to you guys wax poetic about the past forever.
Absolutely.
I think that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was dope.
That was dope, man. I needed that today.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
Nice
Little reunion.
I know. Well, good,
Cool.
because Coach is still here, so we have more questions for him. We're gonna get you back into it. Coach, I know you mentioned somewhere in here the 2010 draft because everybody went in that one. Boogie, John, Patterson, Bledsoe, Orton. And you said it was the biggest draft in Kentucky's history. It was like a huge day for Kentucky. Do you still stand by that? Does anything change that?
Yeah, but we've had two different classes that had 6 players drafted. That was 5 first-round draft picks. I don't think it'll ever be done again from one team. And, and I said the biggest day, but people got mad at me because we didn't win a national title. How can that be a big day? How about if you're one of those 5 families? Was it a big day?
Absolutely.
Yes, it was a big day.
Absolutely.
So
So that's him putting a spin on it, right? Because the other side of that is if you have all that talent, then you should be able to coach those guys up. And that's what some people were saying, like, all right, he's a recruiter, and he's a motivator. But as far as X's and O's, he wasn't that guy, right? And so when he had all that talent on their team, he was not. And see, that's the problem with getting a bunch of guys that are one and done. And so, like that team that he's talking about, the 2010 team, they had a lot of talent on that team, and people expected them because of the talent that they had. They expected them to go all the way and win everything, but they didn't, because it's hard to. It's hard to win with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores when you have, you're going up against guys with more experience who may not be as talented, but they do have more experience. So that's where coaching comes in. And so that's where John Calipari, in my opinion, he put the spin on it. Like, okay, yeah, well, they're going pro. That's true. You had a lot of guys who went pro from your program. But most of the guys that, all those guys who went pro, they would have went pro anyway. It's not like John Calipari brought these guys in here and he coached them up. That wasn't the situation. He brought them into the school and he rolled the ball out there on the court and he told them, go win us a championship. And it didn't work out like that. So he's saying, all right, it was a big day. They was going to go pro. These kids was going pro anyway. That's just how good these teams were.
that's why I said it. We've had 4 lottery picks from 2 different teams. But it's what they talked about. Do you want to play with other good players, or do you want to just be the best guy in the gym because you think it's the easiest way to get where you're trying to go? Well, I want to take the most shots. Do you want to take it now or in the NBA where you're a volume shooter? I mean, but it's hard. You got to sacrifice a little bit. You got to
see. He's like I said, he's a smooth talker. He always gonna put his spin on it to make it look like, like I said, to cover up his deficiency, and his deficiency was coaching kids up and teaching them how to play the game. Whatever talent you brought to the table when you came to John Calipari is a talent, that basically that got you there. I liked him as a coach, but you still have to recognize what kind of coach he was. He wasn't like a Mike Krzyzewski, or he wasn't a Bobby Knight, those kind of guys. Or even like here in Maryland, we had Gary Williams, right? Gary Williams could take a team that had less talent and compete with Duke, compete with North Carolina. They would beat them from time to time, Duke and North Carolina, Clemson, in the ACC, so that was Gary Williams. This guy right here, in my opinion, John Calipari, didn't coach his guys up like that. So let me continue.
give up a little bit. When you're bringing a new team, you got to fail fast, and you got to learn fast, and you got to focus. You got to, it's hard.
Coach, what was your best team?
Well, the national championship team in 2012 was a hell of a team. The team in 15-16, where I platooned because guys came back, hell of a team. And the 2010 team, hell of a team.
But see, he mentioned that 12 team because that 12 team won it. But the 10 team, he wanted to say, well, all right, all those guys, we had a lot of guys go pro from there. But the 12 team was my best team. So, you know what I mean? This how, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, man, so, but let's continue.
The Marcus Camby team with Edgar and Carmelo and Dana Dingle, Dante Bright, that team, Final Four at UMass, really good. And Derrick Rose's team with Chris Douglas and Antonio and Robert and Joey Dorsey, that team.
Oh, yeah.
So you talk about.
Man, when he was at UMass, I really liked him at UMass because, like I said, Dante Bright, right, is a guy out of Baltimore. So I was very familiar with Dante Bright when he went to UMass, and they had some other guys up there that was really good at UMass. But yeah, that was a good team too.
About 5 of my teams, those teams were some of the best.
That Memphis team, one of my favorites. Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing. They all won 38 games. Well, that's the most in the history of the NCAA. They won 38 or 35, 36, but 3 of them won 38.
Sure.
You labeled the Godfather the one and done. By the way, this feels like an eternity ago when we were talking about one and done, and everyone thought you were evil because these guys aren't ready for the league, this, that, and the other. What is it that would make you mad when people would say that? Like, what weren't they getting?
Well, what made me mad is, and I'd come back, well, what if it were your son? Would you want him to go back for 4 years, maybe get hurt, maybe damage himself, maybe not have the opportunity? I mean, Reed Sheppard and Robert Dillingham both made over $25 million in this contract. It's crazy. And I know DeMarcus looks at this stuff and says, yeah, we got cheated. Because that was, you think about it, that's their first contract, and it's 28 and 25 million. I always would say, what if it were your child? The one that used to make me mad was when coaches would say, we'll never do this. I'm about graduating kids. And then within 1 year, those guys, the ones that said it, started taking kids 1 year, 1 year players.
You know what? Now, that's true. Some coaches was like, when those kids, they came up that rule that you had to do at least 1 year college. A lot of those coaches was like, man, we're not taking those guys. They basically just mercenaries, right? And I remember Maryland got Steve Francis. They knew he was only coming for 1 year. Who else? And I was really surprised when Mike Krzyzewski at Duke started doing it. Like, who he had. He had a lot of guys. Kyrie Irving only stayed for 1 year. I'm not sure if Elton Brand did. I think Elton Brand maybe stayed to his sophomore year, but a lot of those, that was the trend though. And those guys made the adjustment, right? Like Mike Krzyzewski still was a really good coach. Even though he brought on some guys that was just one and done. And basically, if you wanted to have any type of success, if you wanted to get the best kids in your school, you had to do that. You had to have those one and done kids in there and incorporate those kids with kids that didn't have as much talent and that would stay. And that's what I think Mike Krzyzewski did. Like kids that didn't have, that one and done talent, he meshed those kids with guys who was who was going to stay and commit to the program, So that's what I thought helped out Mike Krzyzewski.
Coach, with all this NIL money floating around, does it make college hoops feel more professional, more like the NBA now?
If I can't be transformational in what I do, and it becomes transactional, then I won't do this. If you watch me coach this team, you couldn't tell who's making what. But I also know I can't, as in the NBA, you can do this. I can't pay a kid or give an offer to a kid that's 4 to 5 times more than the rest of the guys on the team. Mm-hmm. How do you coach that team?
Right.
I think this where the double standard comes in, because they do it in the NBA. You get paid according to your worth. Even on every job, you get paid according to your worth. That's something that the coaches have to work out in themselves. And I think what's going on with coaches, some coaches they like having the leverage because that's the only way they know how to coach. Like if you tell a kid, like, look, man, I'm gonna cut your minutes, so I'm gonna sit you down if you don't do this or you don't do that. You have something to hold over their head. But once you talking to somebody who is a millionaire, who's making money, now you have to change your approach to how you handle them. And coaches, a lot of coaches only know one way, and that's with force and having leverage. That's the only way they know how to relate to kids. And that's why, that's what the issue is, in my opinion. That's where the complaint comes in. So you like, I don't want a kid on my team who's making X amount of dollars and everybody else only making this. You coach, these coaches coach superstars differently than they do walk-ons. You don't coach a walk-on, you know what I mean? Like a walk-on is not going to have the same leeway as somebody who is a 5-star kid. And so it's the same thing. But with a walk-on and a 5-star kid, you still have that leverage over them. And that's what it is. These kids know that, if I'm making X amount of dollars here, I can go somewhere else, make the same or more, and don't have to put up, with, the coach got to be more of a politician now. And so that's why these coaches don't like this NIL stuff, right? And they got to get used to it. But it's just like being a professional, and rightfully so. These coaches are professionals. This is their career. These kids, a lot of these kids are trying to go to the next level. So in a sense, that's their career. And now they're getting paid for their name and their image and their likeness. So it's a profession now. It's a profession for everybody, not just the coaches.
No, my guys are all doing well, but there's no one that's making 3 to 4 times more. I just think it would be hard. I made the statement, if you put your name in the portal, you're not coming back here, mainly because I'm not going to get in a bidding war. I'm not going to do that because then it's transactional. So yes, here's what we got to do.
Now it's cool to be transactional. Like I said, they don't have a problem with it being transactional when they have all the leverage. We can stop your scholarship because scholarships are only year to year anyway. So if we have all the leverage, then I don't mind, the relationship being transactional. But like I said, if you're a millionaire, you making $7 million, and I think that's what who's the kid making $7 million? Bryce James getting $7 million NIL, not even seeing the floor, right? That's a whole nother That's a whole nother episode. But anyway, you making $7 million a year, you know, in NIL money. Like, what a coach gonna say? You know, you have to, as you know, that's when you put that test, that gift of gab to the test. That's when you know what is your power of persuasion, you know. And I don't think these guys have that, you know. They just used to being able to say, hey, you do this or you do that, and or I'll take this or I'll take that. Now they can't take it. They don't have the leverage.
You can't transfer 4 times. You can't, because you'll never get a college degree and you're only doing it for money. And now all of a sudden,
now he's concerned about college degrees, right? When he said that these guys, you know, earlier he said that, okay, guys who left early, what would you want to stay in school for and possibly hurt yourself and mess your future up? You know, so like I said, man, I like John Calipari. I think John Calipari is a good coach, but he contradicted himself, and he talked, you know, he just talks out of both sides of his mouth. Just, you know, he's a smooth talker, in my opinion. And like I said, and anytime you hear a coach who has a problem with NIL, which, you know, college sports have been going over 100 years, and these kids just now starting to get paid. Colleges have generated billions of dollars, and these kids, some kids are wind up back in the same neighborhood they came from with a degree that don't do them any good, man. You know, so I like the fact that these kids get the NIL money, because if the schools are getting paid because of these kids are here, then why shouldn't the kids be able to get paid? So I like it. Now, like I said, you got these coaches, you know, complaining about the NILs and all this other stuff. Now, I do agree with Calipari that you know, as a player, you shouldn't be able to transfer every year and go to a different school, right? But not because I'm worried about whether you get a degree or not. You know, people don't nobody worry about, like, if tennis players get degrees. You know, don't nobody worry about if a golf, if you know, because some of these colleges that do have tennis programs and golf programs, don't nobody worry about, you know, who gets a degree on a golf team. If you qualify as a college student to play in one of those big golf tournaments or a tennis tournament, they don't care, you know. There is, you know, nothing said. College don't have anything to do with it. So, you know, yeah, man. I just think now that these kids getting paid, man, it's these coaches don't have any leverage, and that's how they make their money. And so it affects their money when they can't coach the kids the way they want to coach them. They don't have any leverage, any security. And so that's my my take on the situation. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.